Apologize to everybody for the delay. Appreciate the patience there. This is another edition of Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We're recapping the Iowa women and their routine victory over Minnesota this afternoon in Carver Hawkeye Arena. Before we get to the breakdown, I want to thank Iowa Smokehouse and their awesome meat sticks, their beef jerky, their delicious steak bites. Everything is awesome, and it's great for game day or any day. If you want a better quality snack right at your doorstep, use the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com and you'll get free shipping if you spend $50. Again, that's iowasmokehouse.com. They're located right down in Albia in Iowa. It's a locally owned company. I know the family that started this company, great people, and they're serving you and Hawkeye fans everywhere. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order. Also, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm in Des Moines. Brad and his team working tirelessly. And this is the time of year, folks, where you're looking at trying to save money and get the expenses done or down, I should say, working on a better budget. People like Brad can really help you out because insurance is one of the costlier things we have to deal with. And it's a must to have in almost every aspect of life, whether you're talking auto, home, renters, business, life insurance. Give Brad and his team a call and give them a chance to save you and your family money at the turn of the year. They spend countless hours every year reviewing coverages and meeting with their clients. They've been in business since 1999. State Farm is the largest auto insurance company in the country, and State Farm has been around for over 100 years. 3 fully licensed team members down in Brad's office on Fleur Drive in Des Moines. Give him a call, 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480, or visit him online at bradvanmeter.com. Well, I am pleased to be joined by, before we go to introductions here, this is Iowa Postgame with Kyle Spence, right? This is the Kyle Spence show now. So we've turned this show into a golf show, I guess. We're not going to talk golf. We're going to talk Iowa basketball for the better part of at least the next 30 to 45 minutes as the Iowa women with the routine victory over Minnesota. And I am joined by a good friend, Kyle Spence, who's an Iowa City guy. And Kyle, you were with me. You saw the tweet that I sent out there towards the end of the game. I was a little bit frustrated with some of the announcing today, but I understand the excitement as I posted on the bottom ticker to start this thing. Caitlin Clark is the first player in D1 history to total 3,000 plus points, 900 plus assists, and 800 plus rebounds. And she was phenomenal tonight. And, if she plays like this every night, they're going to be almost impossible to beat. Now, normally on a typical night, even when Caitlin's being Caitlin, typically she's not nailing 8 threes on 50% shooting, and 16 is a high number. But if you're making 50% of your threes, hey, let it fly, let it rain. Your thoughts on Caitlin tonight? And, supporting cast was good. Hannah Stolke with 19, Kate Martin with 13.
Yeah, I mean, they were efficient all around. Shot 58% from the floor, almost 40% from three. And we've talked at length about Caitlin having games where she takes shot attempt numbers that are in the low 30s, and on some nights that's frustrating because it feels like nobody's getting anything going. But tonight it was purely because she was hot. She was playing good basketball that she got up a lot of shots, got up the 16 threes, as you mentioned, which again, if you're going to shoot 50%, more power to you. I think there were a couple of those heat checks that we could maybe rein back in a little bit, but I think she has the greenest light of all green lights in college basketball. And, she takes heat checks after she makes 2 or 3 in a row. So those are just shots you have to live with, I think, when you got a great player on your team. But no, she had an incredible impact on the all around game. I don't know about the gushing from start to finish from the announcing crew. I think, I don't know, maybe we're a little bit numb to it at this point, but I think there's nothing. I mean, she didn't do anything tonight that she hasn't done for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, she had a great night, but it wasn't like she was doing anything that she's never done before. But yeah, I mean, she had a great impact on the game. I thought Stolke played great, got herself in great positions to catch passes for the most part. And they didn't really run into much resistance. Minnesota wasn't overly athletic, I thought, or overly offensively polished, and that's just not the kind of team that's going to beat this Iowa team.
I also thought Minnesota was pretty bad on the defensive end. Yeah. And I say that knowing that the discussion heading into the game early on was how Minnesota makes their opponents work for everything. They really haven't played a tough schedule, and I'm not saying Minnesota won't finish top half of the Big Ten. If they do, great. This is going to be a really nice win on the resume, a 23-point blowout over a solid team. But this is a Minnesota team, came into the game 11-1 overall. They've got some people that can score. But in general, I didn't think they were very good defensively. But I give credit to people like Hannah Stolke. If you get 9 out of 10 on shot attempts for Hannah Stolke, you're going to take that any day of the week, regardless of where the shot attempts are coming from. And they didn't really utilize, I don't know how many minutes. I'm looking at the final. I don't have the official box score, but I don't have a final minutes count on Goodman or O'Grady. We're seeing less and less minutes for O'Grady and only 1 shot attempt tonight from Sharon Goodman. This was a night where, boy, you can see how the best basketball this team is going to play is going to be through the likes of Caitlin Clark, Hannah Stolke, and they're still doing it without any offensive production from Gabby Marshall and Molly Davis. I mean, Molly Davis didn't make a shot. She was 0 for 1 from the field. Gabby Marshall only took 2, missed both 3 attempts that she had. And I know people are going to respond, well, she plays really good defense. I'm not saying she doesn't at times, but I'm just saying you don't often see a team that's top 5 in anything, any sport, top 5 in the country, that's relying so heavily on 1 to 3 players tops. When's the last time we had any game this year where, you're getting at least 4 of the starters in double figures? Maybe they've had 1 or 2. But for the most part, it's been a 2 to 3 person show each and every night. At times, it's been a 1-person show, and that's when we've seen the closer games, like against Kansas State, against Iowa State, Virginia Tech, etc. So I'll be anxious to see. It seems like Hannah Stuelke is getting more comfortable coming back from injury. I do think people just assume when a player comes back, regardless of what sport we're talking about, that they should just be, if they're back, they're 100% ready to go. I don't think that's always the case, and there is a facet of playing competitive sports, especially at the Big Ten level, which I can't even relate to, where you're going to naturally, your body's going to naturally protect whatever injury you're coming off of. And especially with knees can be tricky. And so, she's still wearing the brace, but I think she's getting more comfortable inside, getting position. And right now, she's by far the best option inside. And no offense to Sharon Goodman, Addison O'Grady, or AJ Ediger, but right now their best game right now is playing Stuelke at the 5. And I think it's one thing I think Mike Hall and company were right on today on the telecast is I think they're best when Hannah Stuelke is healthy at the 5 and they're playing small ball. Now they're going to run into some problems when they play a Kansas State type team that has a big that can really bully Hannah Stuelke down low. The girl for Minnesota, was it Hart? She's got some size, but she's averaging 10 and 5 on the season. She's 6'5". She's got some size, but I thought Hannah Stuelke did a nice job on her for the most part. And she's not one of the more talented bigs that they're going to face, like against a Kansas State or even what we saw against Virginia Tech. So those will be the question marks when they run into somebody in March that has size inside. They can make it difficult and get Hannah Stuelke in foul trouble. How do those bigs behind her play?
Yeah, I thought Stuelke was honestly too fast for a lot of those bigs today. I don't think they were quick enough to stay in front of her. But I'll even take what you said a step further. I think you're absolutely right that this team is going to play their best basketball with Stuelke at the 5. I think this team plays their best basketball with Stuelke as the assertive second best player. I think this team will play its best basketball with Stuelke as the second best player. And I say that because she gets the easiest looks inside. She gets the most efficient shots, and she makes the defense defend the whole court. Because obviously you've got Caitlin on the outside. You still have to guard Gabby Marshall. Still have to guard Kate Martin out there. So if they have somebody inside that makes them worry about the interior, they can spread the floor really well.
And I don't think anybody else besides Hannah Stuelke is comfortable right now as a number 2 scorer. We thought maybe Molly Davis would be there when she got to Iowa a year and a half ago because she was an assertive scorer at Central Michigan. It's just a totally different game. And, I give her credit. She doesn't force the issue. Kate Martin doesn't force the issue. Gabby Marshall doesn't force the issue. And that's part of what makes this team so good is, no, they don't have a ton of elite one-on-one scorers, but they've got one elite one-on-one scorer who's, maybe the best there's ever been at this level, plus a really athletic growing post that feeds off of Clark really well. And so as long as Clark is healthy and you're able to, somehow keep Hannah Stuelke out of foul trouble and on the floor, this team's going to be almost impossible to beat just because of how good they are offensively. And I do believe, I would like to think, based on what we saw from Minnesota in the second half, I don't know that Minnesota is maybe a top third in the Big Ten team, but I do think they're probably top half, specifically because of their top 2 scorers. I thought Amaya Battle was really good at times tonight. I think she's had better games in her career. Certainly Mara Braun, second leading scorer in the Big Ten. She ended up on the night with 15 and 5. So they've got some good offensive players, but you don't want to get into a track meet with Iowa, and that's kind of what happened tonight.
Yeah, they're very good at give credit to them about playing a certain style and making other teams adjust to their style rather than necessarily adjusting to other teams' style. And a lot of that's maybe because they can't play a bruiser, slow game. But in the games that Iowa wins, those Kansas State games that they lost this year and last year, the game did slow down. So when the tempo changes and they're playing a style of basketball that they're not really comfortable with, that's when they lose games. But 90% of the time or more, that's not how the games play out.
The game at Hilton was also very slow, and Iowa State was in that game late. So
absolutely,
I don't know where Iowa State's going to finish in the conference, but that's the key. If you're Iowa, I think to me, you go into a game. I used to say, hey, try to get under Caitlin Clark's skin, get physical with her. That's a start. I think now without Monica Sonano, I think the attention from opponents, if I was a coach, and I'm certainly not, but if I was a coach, I'd be saying, how do we get Hannah Stolke in I don't think you could really get Caitlin Clark in foul trouble. I just don't think, given the position she plays. But how can we get Hannah Stolke in foul trouble? Do we have somebody that can expose her at times on the inside, especially off the ball? How do we get her in foul trouble? And how do we force Iowa to play at our pace? And that may mean that you're not able to dominate Iowa on the glass like some teams probably could if they made a concerted effort, because we're sending everybody back, ensuring that they don't get out in the fast break. I think if you do those two things, you give yourself a chance. That means you're not going to get many offensive boards. If you can at least compete on the defensive glass, that's where I would start. But Caitlin Clark is just so good that you're going to have games where she just wills her team to victory. And, tonight there was basically no doubt after that first quarter. Esther, appreciate the comment. I'm doing well. Thank you for being here. She says for New Year's, I get to watch 4 to 10-year-olds at Life Zone. What is Life Zone?
I don't know.
Okay.
Life Zone. Oh, it's fitness. Okay. Fitness
Okay.
place.
Life Zone. Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here, Esther. Yes, another couple of wins for the men and the women. Evan is here. Great game, although Caitlin had 9 turnovers, was only 1 of 3 from the line. It seems like free throws the only part of her game that went down from last year. And, even the 9 turnovers I can usually live with. I mean, tonight she had, 10 assists on the night. That's not a great assist to turnover ratio. However, you can live with it when she's, making 8 threes and consistently getting, flirting with triple doubles on a night in, night out basis. So, but I do get what you're saying, Evan. The phone line is open, folks. If you want to give us a call, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. Let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We've got, we've got Ben on hold. Ben, welcome. Ben, welcome to the show. Should we just start over? Just start over. Ben, welcome to the show. All right, Ben is MIA. Let's go to our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Hello, guys. This is Brad. How are you, boys?
Good, Brad. How are you, sir?
How you doing?
Good. Here's what I'd like to see. Sometimes with Caitlin, other teams like Kansas will do the grind on us, grind it down, slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see her come out with Hannah Stolke and run a 1-2-2 zone, not a zone, full court press zone, with her, and then bring in Sid, and then bring in Kaylee, and then have it on who the other one is, Kate Martin, and her. I think that would totally upbeat the tempo of the game. I used to coach it down, so I'm kind of prejudiced with her, but that's what I would do. When you get teams that like to grind it, you want up tempo, press them. Not for turnovers, it speeds up the game.
Speed them up, yeah.
And also with those guys trapped, Hannah Stolke is a great athlete. You do that 1-2-2 like the old Tom Davis, get him caught in the dead man's corner, where you got out of bounds, you got 2 guys. Girls turn the balls over a lot. Well, guys do too, but especially women, if you press them, they don't like it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to see them do. They need an up-tempo. See, my dog even agrees. But anyway, I'll hang up and get your feedback.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I'd have to go. I mean, it doesn't seem like Lisa and her teams press a whole lot. That's where they're polar opposite defensively from what the Iowa men do, and that's a big part of Fran's. I don't know if it's his philosophy on defense. They like to change things up a lot and mix in the full court press. It seems to be Fran has done that more and more as time went by, and I think maybe in recent years their teams have been less and less athletic, which is really scary to think about. They've been less and less athletic, and they've relied more on the full court press, and they got good length. They've had good length for a long time, and that's maybe the difference between what Lisa Bluter. I don't know if she would respond and say, hey, we'd like to press more, but they're not real long, Kyle, between Molly Davis, Gabby Marshall, Caitlin Clark's got good length, Hannah Stolke, but you're basically playing a small lineup out of the gate. And in tonight's game, I mean, again, I don't have the final minutes totals, but I don't know that did Sharon Goodman play 20 minutes? I don't think she did.
No.
But yeah, definitely.
What it was either, but
I think what he said is fair. Is we hear all the time about slowing the game down with a full court press, but you can also speed your opponent up. And I am amazed at the number of travels that are committed in the women's game, and I don't know why that is. maybe I'm not watching enough WNBA basketball, but it seems like there are a lot more travels called in the women's game than there are in the men's game. Do you feel the same way? I know that the jump ball is enforced differently, but it just seems like there's a foot that slides or an extra step taken before the dribble that gets called a lot more on the women's side.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more. I don't know if the numbers would back it up too, but there just feels like there's a lot more loose ball turnovers as well. Like just in general, there's a lot more turnovers. I think the point about the zone is interesting. I will say if they do that, we haven't really hit the limits of Caitlin Clark's gas tank, but if you want to find out where that limit is, play a full court press on top of what she's doing offensively, because I think that would be very, very taxing for her. But
it'd be something to think about. It'd be something to think about in spurts when she's not on the floor.
Yes, that I agree with 100%. I think they could do it fairly effectively if they put in a bigger lineup with her off the court.
Because especially with her off the court, their half court offense takes a massive step backwards. I mean, a lot of their half court offense tonight, I mean, they got in transition, but a lot of their half court offense tonight is Caitlin Clark just taking a step back three. That's
the other thing I wonder too, if we're gonna talk about her, if they're them doing a zone and pressing with her off the court, then do you design a zone that is designed to slow the game down to minimize the number of possessions that Caitlin misses? That could be another way to look at it. If you know your half court offense is not going to be super efficient, then cut the possessions in half and have her miss 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but 30% less possessions.
Yeah, good point. Dale with the chat, appreciate you being a premium subscriber, Dale. He says, give Gabby Marshall a great appreciation of her defense. Hopefully she gets her shot better. She was great on defense. I don't know what's going on with her shot. She had 2 good looks tonight. Both of them missed. The one was, I think, went in and out. But this ain't horseshoes. So you either make them or you don't. I don't know if it's a mental thing for her right now. Does her shot look the same to you? I know you're not a shot doctor, Kyle, but does the stroke look the same?
I thought it looked fine. I don't think there's anything. I mean, it doesn't look radically different from last year. I mean, but again, she was this person last year too. I mean, I know she's not making shots, but for most of, go look at her box scores last year. She did not make shots the majority of last year. She got hot at the right time and really helped them, but she's not. She's never been elite, consistent shooter.
Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
This is Roger.
Hey, Roger.
I disagree with the last caller.
Okay.
I don't think. First of all, I wouldn't put Caitlin Clark in that position ever. And she's in the fourth quarter. She started missing some of those wide open threes. You watch her legs. She wasn't getting her legs underneath like she was. She was coming up short. I think you've got to her limit of her gas tank now.
Well, one way you could, I know this is maybe going to ruffle some feathers. One way you can limit her and help her with fatigue. First of all, they haven't been playing much. So, I mean, it's one thing that, yeah, she's playing a lot of minutes per game, but it's not like she should have been fatigued, I don't think, in this game. She's going to be tired, right? You're playing, the best players play 35 to 40 minutes in this game, but it's not like this team's been playing a lot. But when you have opportunities to get Caitlin Clark out when you're up 20, get her out.
Yeah, that's just a discussion I've heard you many times. You and Lisa don't agree on that, and I think times you're risking too much injury with her in, but people come to see a show.
I know, but if that's
kind of like
Roger, real quick, just to say, if she's out, then more people are going to miss the show moving forward.
There's no show. Yeah, there's no show if she gets hurt with 5 minutes left in the game.
Oh, I agree. And for this team to really do what it needs to do, they have got to find people who hit some 3-point shots. And today, the rest, other than Kate Martin and Caitlin, they were 2 for 11.
Yeah,
they were not contested threes. They were wide open looks.
No, you're very right, and they didn't need anybody else tonight. But you're absolutely right, and that's why I go back. The only thing I would, and I'm not there at practice every day, obviously, and we hear about Lisa Bluter and some of the best coaches in the country shortening their lineups, shortening their rotations as the season progresses. The one thing I would look back at today and say, if I was there in person to be able to ask Lisa questions, I'd probably say, hey, is it just a matchup thing that Taylor didn't get in the game until so late? Or, is that something like, because I would think that would be my concern right now if I'm Lisa Bluter. Like, yeah, you want to keep Caitlin healthy. Hannah needs to stay healthy, needs to be on the court, keep her out of foul trouble. But the other thing is, like, if Gabby Marshall, if that light just doesn't come on, Kate Martin has been up and down from three. Molly Davis hasn't been consistent from three. We're not seeing Hannah Stolke stretch the floor much, and she isn't asked to. But unless Sydney Afalter or Kylie Feuerbach starting hitting threes, I'd be playing Taylor McCabe more because they're going. I agree with Roger. They're going to need 3-point production, and I think she is the most qualified candidate to give them. She is a 3-point shooter. That's what she is, and I don't think we've seen the best out of her yet. But you've also not seen her play many minutes. She didn't play more than 5-6 minutes today.
Yeah, and that's when I watched the game. I kept waiting for her to come in because it was obvious these other people weren't hitting their threes. And if you really want to see what Hannah Stolke can do inside, you've got to make the rest of the defenders respect the three-point line all around the perimeter. That's what helped them last year when Gabby Marshall got red hot in the tournament. I mean, you couldn't sag off. And that's what has to happen. They've got to get some people out there on the perimeter that can hit some threes.
I agree. And like I said earlier, Gabby Marshall 0 for 2. Molly Davis was 0 for 1. Sydney Afalter 0 for 2. Kylie Feuerbach was 1 for 3. Taylor McCabe had 2 shots in 6 minutes, made one of the 2 threes. And Jada Jemfe was 0 for 1. She's not going to play significant minutes down the stretch. But I agree with you, Roger. They need to figure out the 3-point shot. And I think, Lisa's probably looking at this and saying, kind of like Fran would if it was Peyton Sandford, hey, with Caitlin Clark's game and with what we do with Hannah and getting out in transition, Gabby's going to get looks and eventually she's going to knock down shots. We got to have faith that she's going to do that. But I just think, I don't know. I wonder what's holding Taylor back from getting some of Gabby Marshall's minutes. Is there that big of a drop off on the defensive end? I don't know about that. I think Gabby's really good off the ball as it relates to ball denial and, just her defensive fundamentals and effort. She gives great effort on the defensive end, but I can't imagine it's that big of a difference in closer games where, Caitlin's maybe struggling a little bit or Hannah's dealing with foul trouble. They need somebody else that can stretch the floor.
Well, they have the other thing that's interesting too is like Caitlin, we get kind of fortunate on nights like tonight where she shows her greatness and makes 8 of 16 threes, but the 3-point shots that Caitlin Clark takes and makes are difficult shots. They're tough shots. The shots she gets for everyone else are the easy ones. Those are the ones that should be consistent, but the shot quality that Caitlin gets because of the attention that the defense pays to her, she could very well have nights where she goes 1 for 11. And then where are you? I mean, are you going to hit 3 threes as a team? I mean, they have to have people that hit those shots that are open.
Yeah, and that's what I thought today. I mean, all these 11 shots that got missed, they were wide open threes.
Absolutely.
And you could see when line.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, again, last year, as Kyle said earlier, Gabby did miss a lot of shots early in the year and light came on at the right time. And I think some people just assumed that would happen. Kyle, you read me a stat the other night. I think Gabby's had one game where you could even argue she shot well, and that was at UNI. Am I correct in saying that she made 3 or 4 threes at UNI? Yeah. This is not any small sample size. Now, this is 14 games. And I guess she didn't play in the last one, so 13 games total. She's had one above average performance in 13 Big Ten games. And, I mean, I can grab her stats now, but I'm guessing she's shooting close to 30% would be my guess.
28%.
28% is her. That's, they need a much better number than that down the stretch. She's shooting 20 after today. She's shooting 27% from 3.
Yeah. That's it's just it's a great balancing question for a coach because she's been so good for them at times over the last couple of years that if this goes on for 25 games, does she keep getting 30 minutes a night, 25 minutes a night? I don't know. Those
are the questions I would think Lisa Bluter and Jan Jensen and that staff are having behind closed doors that we don't get to hear, I would think.
And Cory, I'm not saying we should go and bench her because she's missing shots. I'm just saying that throughout the game, Taylor McCabe I think she's going to be the missing piece on the outside. And you got to get her where she feels comfortable. She needs to be paying, 10 to 15 minutes a game with the frontline people.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just my thought. How many of Caitlin's turnovers come from passes that maybe the person doesn't cut on the right side of their defender, or they're just out of sync yet, where that didn't happen with Monica Sonano as much?
Yeah, and not everybody can be Monica Sonano inside. I get that, but you're right. And I watch. I always make the comparison. Totally different sport, really, but I compare watching Luka Doncic to Caitlin Clark. You're going to get turnovers when you watch Luka Doncic play, but the amount of production and the volume of production that you're going to get in so many different areas completely outweighs the 5 to 10 turnovers you're going to get a game. Now, I'm sure Caitlin would say, "Hey, I need to cut back on 9. 9's a bit too many." But again,
yeah, it is.
Like you said, Roger, there are times when she doesn't have the athletic. Not that Monica Sonano was some amazing athlete, but she was really good fundamentally, getting in the right spots, walling off her defender. I mean, I watch AJ Ediger. I'm not trying to rip on AJ Ediger. There's a reason she's not playing much, but I thought she had 2 turnovers late in the game. Once Caitlin was off the floor, where she didn't wall off her defender at all. And, it's all about positioning and strength and footwork. And, I'm not one to be giving these ladies criticism, but that's, I guess, what I do. So anyways, they'll work on it. I mean, I would think that, we've been saying this for a while, but people like Sharon Goodman, Addison O'Grady, I would think they're in there every day in the gym working on the same things that Monica Sonano worked on and Megan Gustafson worked on. But right now, their best option and their most secure option on the interior is Hannah Stolke, and it's not close right now.
Well, it'd be kind of interesting. I didn't watch the Iowa team back when Monica first started playing, like her first years, when she actually became a starter, or actually was a big portion of the game. But, where does Sharon Goodman and them, where do they fit whenever Monica was in her first true year of playing? I don't know.
Yeah. I think they're behind schedule from that perspective. I think that's fair to say. They're behind this, but not everybody's going to be Megan Gustafson and Monica Sonano turned into 2 of the best bigs in the country by their senior year. So you're not going to get. I can say with confidence, I don't think I'm jumping the gun to say that Sharon Goodman and Addison O'Grady, neither one of those ladies are going to end up being, in the discussion for first or second team All-American at any point in their careers. I don't think they maybe have the upside. Now, again, Sonano did it without great athleticism, but, she had good size and she had really good footwork for her size, ran the floor really well, ran the floor better than anybody on this team, maybe the exception being Hannah Stolke. He's just a different type of player. So I don't know. We'll see. And they got Ava Hayden coming in next year. Another true big. I'm guessing they kind of hope that she can be the more natural 5. And, if Hannah Stolke sticks around she's got an opportunity to stick around for a couple more years. Maybe we get in a couple of years, her senior year, you get Ava Hayden and Hannah Stolke on the floor a lot. And maybe the light does flash on for O'Grady or Goodman. And Goodman's not playing badly right now. I'm just saying in general, how many minutes did she get tonight? Sharon Goodman on the night finished with 8 minutes. Addison O'Grady finished with 4.5. So,
well, I just saw that there were times when I could see Caitlin pointing she's like, you should have went to the top, around the top side, or you should. I think there's a little out of sync. Hopefully that'll get better.
Yep. No,
So,
I hear you, Roger.
So, all right, you guys have a good day.
Thank you for the call, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. And before we get to our next caller, we're going to put our caller on hold for just a second. I do want to give a shout out to RTI Threads. They're also sponsoring women's basketball coverage throughout the year. And of course, they've partnered with a bunch of Iowa football players and continue to expand their Hawkeye NIL platform. Visit rtithreads.com to check out the lineups of Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Zach Lutmer, Cooper DeJean, Aiden Hall. You can go to Cooper DeJean's website at cd3lacesup.com. Check out the Cooper DeJean CD3 Laces Up gear. And as I've been touting, he's going to be announcing a decision on a stay or go decision as it relates to the NFL draft sometime after Monday. So people will want to support the cause. A great young guy from a small town. All these guys are from small Iowa towns. Great causes to support. Again, rtithreads.com, cd3lacesup.com. RTI Threads also has our player of the game, and none other than Caitlin Clark with 35 points, 10 assists, 5 boards, and yes, 8 3-pointers for Caitlin Clark. And it's not the first time she's done that. But if she's shooting 50% from three, I'll take 16 shots. And you made a good point earlier, Kyle, in saying she doesn't always take the easiest of threes. A lot of her shots are, maybe not backed by the logo, but they're, 5-6 feet off the 3-point line. She loves the step back. I thought as the game went on, there were a few that she forced, and you're going to kind of live with that, kind of like you live with Steph Curry taking insane shots late in the game. Especially if his team or the team around him is struggling. Of course, Steph Curry has a lot more help than Caitlin Clark has ever had at Iowa. So a little bit of a different scenario there, but she was really good. And here's the unbelievable thing about Caitlin Clark. It was talked about how she's now the all-time leader in assists in this conference. She's also the all-time leader in points. That is special, not just from a perspective of she's got good vision. She's, a good passer. She can score from every level. But I do think it is a testimony to her as an athlete. I'm not saying she's the most athletic player that's ever come through the system. But, that's a lot of volume. We keep using that term volume. I think maybe we underestimate how good of an athlete Caitlin is at times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the conversation around LeBron, I think, is kind of the same right now, where he's getting up towards 40,000 points in his career. And people are kind of saying, oh, he's just lasted the year 21 and whatnot. But, the fact that Caitlin's gone through 4 years, played massive minutes for 4 years, and has not, we knock wood here, but she's never had a serious injury. She's never missed significant time. And she's played 4 years of basketball, being very, very consistent from start to finish. She hasn't had that 20-game funk that a lot of college basketball players go through. So it's a testament to her skills, but it's also a testament to her work ethic and how she's built herself up as a player.
Want to let everybody know, of course, the Iowa women have played 2 Big Ten contests. The Iowa men have also played 2 Big Ten contests. We are going to have special guests coming up for both sports. So Gary Close will be back on Tuesday to recap men's action. And we've got some guests on the lineup on the docket for this show for Iowa women's basketball postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So stay tuned, folks. And as we get closer to March Madness, I know it's going to be a fun March, even if we don't know what the men are going to do leading into the Big Ten tournament and the NCAAs. But I think it's fair to say the women are going to be in the conversation for a 1 or a 2 seed once again. Ideally, with the schedule and looking at the rest of the Big Ten right now, Iowa should be, the goal should be a 1 seed, and I would think 2 would be the floor. Now, it's always possible they lose some games. Looking at the schedule, Indiana looks good again, and we expected them to have another good year. Penn State's not played a real tough schedule. They're decent. Michigan's 11-3. I don't really know. I haven't looked at Michigan as much. Maryland, I think, is a little bit down this year, although they've played a difficult schedule. Ohio State's maybe the biggest surprise for me at 10-3. There's losable games, but I don't think Maryland is as dominant as we've seen in the past. Michigan is not as dominant as we've seen in the past. It's probably going to be a race between Ohio State, Iowa, and Indiana again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we saw down the stretch, especially Indiana last year. And they've, of course, got the big that can cause Iowa problems as well. So that will be a matchup that will be widely publicized. Let's go to James says Michigan beat Ohio State today. Are you talking about? Okay, I didn't see that. Let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah, you're right. Michigan did upset Ohio State. I did not see that, James. So thank you for letting me know that in the private chat. So I think there's quite a bit of balance once you get below Iowa and maybe Indiana. But I do think Ohio State and Michigan are going to be dangerous teams there at the end. Let's go to James in our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. James, welcome.
I was trying to stay on. I had to leave for a second. My screen kept acting up again, but I changed my computer, so I should be fine now.
Well, you're back here, and we couldn't be more thankful.
Yeah. First off, I was gonna say one thing they said about the shooting issues. I get Gabby gives you really good defense, but I feel like on ball wise, I feel like Sydney can give you the same amount of defense, and maybe you put Taylor in for a couple more minutes and see if maybe she can hit a couple of threes for you or something that Gabby doesn't do, and you still maybe you don't have as good of off ball defense that Sydney can give you compared to Gabby, but on ball defense, I feel like Sydney might be better if maybe they're not equal in the on ball defensive category. So maybe that's something you might think about too. If obviously she thinks she knows what to do, but maybe that's something you look into, where it's she can maybe get you a couple of threes up. And Taylor, like I said earlier, I feel like she's the second best option. I trust her second most of anybody throwing when she shoots the three, just because I know she has the confidence and she always seems to make
I
them.
think the one thing Taylor needs to work on, again, from my non-coaching background, the one thing that I see from Taylor McCabe is maybe she needs to work a little bit harder to get open off the ball. She doesn't.
And defense, her defense isn't great either, but she's also very undersized in retrospect of like she's obviously Gabby is too, but she just seems like she doesn't give as much effort on the defensive side.
Yeah, I just think that she, if you're Taylor McCabe, work a little harder off the ball to get open, move without the ball, and that's going to create more opportunities for Caitlin Clark if she's got a real right now. She doesn't have an incredibly reliable weapon outside. She's got different people who make threes on occasion. But man, I think Caitlin Clark might be best when she's able to drive. And,
and then you could, my bad, but you could have Taylor especially if you're driving, you have Taylor as a kick option, who, no offense to Gabby, I would trust Taylor as a kick option right now more than I would trust Gabby as a kick option. Obviously not for the future, but right now I would trust Taylor more as a kick option than I would
and
trust
both
Gabby.
of those players need to be open. Like Taylor McCabe, maybe a little bit bigger than Gabby Marshall. Gabby's not taking contested threes. They have to be wide open. And she's smart. I mean, she doesn't force shots. So
unfortunately, she's not making the open ones. That's the only thing that
you're right. Absolutely right.
She had a couple today that were wide open, and I was like, I just wanted to see one fall. At least maybe I would have got her confidence. They both rimmed out, but obviously, I feel like Hannah played well today too, and I think that's something we can keep building on as well. And I feel like if we keep playing this way, we kind of obviously she had 35 from Caitlin, and then everybody else kind of filled in from there. But it's like you're not gonna get 35 every night, but I feel like I've seen kind of from Kate and Hannah the last couple of games where it's like you can see something where like they can give you 10 to 15 in that range sometimes when you might need them to give you.
And Iowa wins in different ways because of how great Caitlin Clark is. Like normally she's not going to make 8 threes, right?
Yeah.
But because she's knocking down threes at such a high clip, she takes 16. And she only takes 6 twos. I mean, think about that. 16 threes, 6 twos for Caitlin Clark. There are other nights where she's going to need to drive the ball a little bit more. The 3-point shot doesn't fall early.
But my bad.
No, I was saying she needs to be able to drive the ball and have those kick out options, like you said.
But I was going to say she seems to know. Obviously, she's smart enough, and she's one of the better players in the country. She knows when she can drive and when she can't get those shots off most of the time. Sometimes she does force a lot of threes up. But like this game, at least she seemed to know when to take a good shot, when to not take a 3-point shot. Like most of them, I felt like were open looks for her. She might not have made them, but for her, open looks. Not like
she does take a lot of heat check threes.
Yeah, and there was one she took. I think it was like the second or third one she made, and like we didn't really get much offense, and like we got like out of bounds play, we didn't get much offense. It like went to her, and I was like swing it so we can get more looks. And she just sat there for a second and shot it. And I was like, no, it's a terrible shot. Then it went in. I was like, well, I guess if it goes in, it ain't that bad of a shot. But I thought it was a bad shot because she didn't get nothing moving. And the girl was like right in her face. And I was like,
that has to be one of the harder. And maybe Lisa Bluter would say it's absolutely not difficult at all when you have somebody as great as Caitlin. But I would think that has to be one of the most difficult things difficult situations to coach. Because how do you preach good shot selection when you're, the greats like Steph Curry, Caitlin Clark can take bad shots that go in? How do you teach that? Like
at some point you're just like it's a bad shot, but if it goes in, obviously then it's still a bad shot, but it went in. So
I know, but that's hard to coach. That's hard.
It's even harder to coach at the youth basketball level because they don't listen to anything. They just see what they see and they want to be what they see.
Well, trust me, I know that from experience for sure, but. Like for me, it's just like I feel like we're playing well and we can keep the momentum up. But like you said, the Big Ten, I feel like Michigan has to be, and I know it's early in the year, but we know Ohio State might be big for them, and I don't know, they're 11-3 as well, so you don't know how well they could be. Yeah, I think you probably put them in the top 4 right now. But other than that, I think Minnesota, obviously they're 11-1, but like you said, they really didn't play anybody, and I think the one team that did play was Kentucky, and they lost that game. So
right.
I don't know how well you can really say they're 11-1. Like they're 11-1, but they're not really 11-1, if you know what I mean. Like they haven't really played nobody to prove that they're 11-1.
Yeah, and Nebraska, Nebraska is the one team I didn't mention. They're 9-3, but they haven't really beaten anybody. Have a loss to TCU, have a loss to Creighton. They really haven't beaten anybody. A lot of these teams have not
played anybody.
Yeah.
I feel like Iowa's played a decent. And I feel like Iowa's played one of the tougher non-conference schedules in the Big Ten, like because like obviously we played Kansas State twice, we played Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that gives us maybe what we need down the stretch. And obviously Iowa State, I don't think is that great, but they're not no slouch either, you know. So that kind of helps you a little bit with.
And they've played some decent mid-major teams. Like Cleveland State was actually a decent mid-major.
UNI was highly regarded.
UNI is a good mid-major. Drake is a good mid-major. So I give credit for Lisa and company doing that. And Florida Gulf Coast right now is 10-4. They did lose. They've got a loss to Duke. They got a loss to Iowa, and they've got a loss to. Let's see. They beat North Carolina, of course, and a loss to USC and Old Dominion. So they got one bad loss. I don't know anything about Old Dominion.
Yeah,
actually, Old Dominion.
Old Dominion is probably not bad there.
Yeah, Old Dominion's 9-2, top of the Sun Belt. So I don't think Florida Gulf Coast is a bad. They're not a bad program right now.
They're going to make a name, and they'll probably be somewhere in March. And obviously, you have to for them, they're going to have to win their conference to get in the March Madness. So for them, it's a little different. You know, they're not going to be a team that's going to get automatic or a bid in just if they don't win the conference. So they have to win the conference to get in. But they're definitely a team I think that could make noise if they do get in.
Yeah, I agree.
Minnesota's only loss entering this game was UConn. They beat Kentucky.
They beat Kentucky.
Kentucky lost to UConn. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know how good Kentucky is compared to the last couple of years. So I don't know.
They've taken a step back from 2 years ago when they were a lot better. So
for sure. But I don't know. I know it's just a basketball show, but I don't know if you've watched any of the City Bowl. But Maryland's putting a whoop down on Auburn. They're up 31-7.
Good for Maryland. Go Big Ten, man.
So
Ohio State did not represent the conference well last night. Isn't that weird to say? The one team that struggled in bowl from the Big Ten, the one team that struggled in bowl season has been Ohio State. But that also tells you the difference that, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't play. That's the difference that opt-outs make. Mizzou had nobody opt out. Ohio State, I think, had one significant player opt out. Yeah. They also lost Julian Fleming to the portal.
Lost their quarterback as well, too.
Al McCord goes to the portal, goes to Syracuse. So.
And then Devin Brown got hurt. So that kind of made it even more. I'm not saying Keenholz was ready, but you know he's young. He's a true freshman. It's his first ever time really being out there. So
I bet all those Ohio State fans that were very critical of Kyle McCord would have liked to have him last night instead of scoring 3 points.
Yeah. But the Ohio State fans that want to make excuses because of the loss will simply say game doesn't matter because nobody cares about the Cotton Bowl. So Mizzou fans wouldn't want you to think that though. That's how we like to go with the convenient narratives with college football now.
So, but what's your thoughts? Like, obviously, and I don't want to put the jinx on them, but like they're not going to win every game in the Big Ten. Like for me, it's just like I want to see how they kind of react to adversity in a way of like I felt like they did a great job against Kansas State when they played in the second time. Like they reacted to adversity.
Wait. What do you mean? You say obviously they're not going to win every game in the Big Ten? What do you?
I don't think it's possible to win every game in the Big Ten. I just don't.
Well, that's not true. But
I mean, It is possible. It is possible, but I don't think we've ever seen it from a team. From Iowa last year, I think they were better last year and they didn't win every game in the Big Ten.
I don't think the Big Ten is as good as it was last year, A. And B, I think Hannah Stolke's a lot better than she was last year. So the question becomes, does either Marshall, McCabe, a Falter, or Feuerbach, do one of those players start becoming a consistent threat from three? Because as Kyle said, they didn't have that until postseason last year with Gabby Marshall. Sure. So if they get that earlier this year, with an improved Hannah Stolke and hopefully a couple of other bigs behind her that can spot minutes here or there. I mean, I don't think the Big Ten is as good as it was last year, and they probably won't win out. But
if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I'd be happy to be wrong for sure, especially in this situation. But I'm just saying, like,
I think Mackenzie Holmes at Indiana is going to give them the biggest problem.
Yeah. The way we play, I feel like sometimes kind of scares me, though, in retrospect of, like, we don't have that consistency of, like, a third option. And like sometimes too, like Caitlin obviously can get going, but like what if Hannah's not always going sometimes and you only got one option? Then what happens if you can't get 3-point shots going? It might be a little scary. That's my thing. It's like I just don't feel like we have enough options right now.
You know, that happened against Iowa State and Kate Martin stepped up late. So if you can continue to get production from someone when it matters each and every game, Caitlin Clark's going to keep you in every game.
Yep.
And Kate Martin didn't play great in Hilton until the last 3-4 minutes of that game. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where we see teams in the men's team, you could kind of, against good teams, I foresee this with the men this year, where everything kind of has to work for them to have a chance against the good teams. with the women's team, they need so many different things not to work to not be in a game late.
Yeah, I agree.
They're going to be able to, I hate to say this, but be in every game they play simply because they have Caitlin Clark, with the exception maybe being those better teams, those 3 or 4 better teams where they're going to need solid from Caitlin, production somewhere else. And then even then, that's only 2 people that are giving you consistent offensive production. You're going to at least have a shot. That's how good Caitlin is. And that's how, with Iowa's offense, unless you can slow them down, which is going to be difficult as long as Hannah's healthy, I just think this team needs a lot not to go their way, not to have a chance late in games. That's why I think there is a chance they win out.
Could we just say too, like Timothy in the chat makes a good point. Most teams don't have a consistent third option. And that's true. Like most teams, if you look at most box scores in college basketball, men's or women's, most teams have 1 or 2 really good players, and the third option is a who's who as to who's going to step up that given night. So we just need to find a rhythm where we have somebody stepping up each night.
Yeah, that was kind of my point, where it's like I wasn't meaning like consistent like that. Like maybe not the same option, obviously, but like sometimes it seems like there's no third option. Like it's just 1, 2, and there's no third option at all.
Yeah,
and I feel like you're not going to win games like that sometimes if it feels like there's just no third option at all.
Yeah, they don't need a big 3. They need a decent supporting cast.
Yeah. And sometimes you haven't got that. I mean, how many times has there been where it's been like 1, 3 hit? I mean, today it was like 2 between the other ones, but like Caitlin will hit like 6, and then the other players will hit like 1. Like that's gonna be tough for you to kind of win games that way.
I think my biggest concern from just a scoring perspective is looking at the games that have been close compared to the games that have not. Like there haven't been. This is a fun trivia fact for you, Kyle. You probably won't get this. Maybe you will. What's the one group of numbers? Okay. I'll give you several options. The options are 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s.
Okay.
What's the one group of numbers Iowa has not finished in scoring in a single game this year? If that makes sense. Is that question phrased correctly?
Is it 70s?
They have not scored in the 70s one time. Now, let me say, who cares? But my point is, in saying that, is
that's funny.
They have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, they have 2. I'm sorry. They've got 2 performances where they've scored in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And, more often than not, they're scoring in the 80s and 90s. But I'm just saying they have had games where almost nothing else is working around Caitlin Clark.
And those are the games where she hits 2 threes and no one else backs her up. I mean, it's fine for everyone else to hit 2 or 3 threes when she hits 8. But if she goes 1 of 12 and they have that, then it's trouble.
That's why, like I say, I just think they need to find someone who can consistently be a threat from outside. And I think the 3-point number is a valid one to bring up. Tonight, you're thinking, wow, Caitlin was amazing. She made 8 threes. The team only made 11. So the rest of the team was, what would that be, 3 of 13 from 3? That's mediocre at best.
Well, of those 11, too, how many were open? That was at least 2 or 3 Gabby Marshall threes that I feel like were wide open.
Yeah,
she didn't hit them.
The better question is how many of those 13 were even contested? Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you missed them. You missed a lot of them, and I feel like a lot of them were wide open. And I think that's even more of a scary issue, where it's like you're wide open and you can't hit it.
A lot of those 13 are practice shots. Yeah, they're warm up shots.
So what's the next game for the girls? I don't have the schedule in front of me, so.
Well, of course, you're going to put me on the spot here, James.
Making sure you know your stuff,
January 2nd against Michigan State.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a quick turnaround. That's Tuesday.
I don't know how good Michigan State is. I don't think they're that good compared to what they've been, but I also don't follow women's basketball like that.
Interesting too, Cory. Like the way Caitlin Clark plays, if she has a 5-day turnaround, she's fine, obviously, because what great athlete isn't going to be fine on a 5-day turnaround? But like, if you guys look at the WNBA schedules where she would be in a couple of years, like I'm curious if she gets to, that next level in 2 years and she's.
Did they get like a week off between games?
No, WNBA plays like every other night.
Oh.
Like, so if a WNBA team drafts her, and looks at her and goes, "We want you to do what you did at Iowa," and I doubt they would do that. But if they make her the ultra focal point the way Iowa has, I'm curious, like genuinely, to see if she can keep doing what she's doing on an every other night basis. Because it seems like, man, one night off between games, the way she plays would be tough.
By the way, the plan is for a combined post-game show on Tuesday because you've got the men playing at 6, the women playing at 8. So expect for us to be live somewhere between 10 and 10:30 with Coach Close talking about the 2 games. But anyways, James.
It was a good game, and hopefully we can get 2 wins next week. Wisconsin can be tough for the men, and go Hawks on Monday. I think it's the most important one we're focused on right now, obviously, and it'll be good to get a win. And I'll talk to you later, and I hope your New Year's goes well for both of y'all, and happy 2024 for both of y'all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it,
James.
Kelly's with us. Appreciate you being here. Kelly, please drive safe. As Evan says in the chat, looked up the stats for assists. Caitlin currently sits at number 11 all time in women's hoops, only 8 away from being top 10 all time. So she'll surpass that likely, if not Tuesday, then on, let's see, who do they play on? They play somebody Friday? No, Saturday. They're back in action.
Rutgers on the 5th.
Rutgers. Yep.
And she needs about another 180 or so to break into the top 5. So I'm sure she'll get close to that or pass it by the end of the season.
All right. Before we go to, well, actually, let's go ahead and go to our next caller. We've got our Iowa Smokehouse caller on hold. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Chris from Lusk, Wyoming.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. So I caught Lisa Bluter's post-game interview with BTN. And she answers the question, why does she keep playing Gabby? Apparently she's got this system of plus minus, which has to do with the score. Does it increase or decrease during the time that a player is playing? According to her, she says that Gabby has the highest plus score of anybody in the team. So that's why she's in there. So even though she's not scoring, the team is scoring more.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense. But
yeah, it does make sense. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't personally believe the plus minus is a great indicator. I don't know what Coach Close has said. I'd like to ask Coach that question. I think we've talked about it before. And again, I'm not saying Lisa Bluter is wrong. She's absolutely right. Tonight she had the best plus minus of anybody at plus 32. Part of that is she's playing with Caitlin Clark and Hannah Stolke.
Right.
Caitlin Clark was plus 29. Kate Martin was plus 30. Hannah Stolke was plus 20. No, there's no question. I mean, they're able to survive in most circumstances without great three-point shooting from Gabby Marshall because they're getting great play from Gabby Marshall. They're getting great play from Hannah Stolke, and Gabby is giving them a lot defensively. I would just like to see them mix in Taylor McCabe a little bit more.
Me too. I remember that game when Taylor was just shooting the lights out.
Yeah, well,
I've been wondering why isn't she getting more time? But that's just me.
I think down the stretch, she'll down the stretch have to play a little bit more because they're going to have to knock down threes, and you're not always going to get 8 from Caitlin Clark. Now they won by 23. Right. They won by 23, so it's not like we're talking about a close game. But
so it was a fun game. But I thought when Lisa Bluter brought that up, she was being a little bit defensive because the first item on the reporter's agenda was let's talk about Caitlin. The next one was, and boy, didn't Kate Martin and Hannah Stolke have a great game. She didn't answer that. She went right to why Gabby Marshall was playing. So she knows that she's getting some criticism about keeping her in the amount of playing time that Gabby's getting.
So was that a question that she asked Lisa Bluter specifically, or whoever the interviewer was, or did she answer that?
No, she didn't mention the interviewer. The BTN person did not mention Gabby. Lisa's answer to the question about Hannah and Kate was Gabby, why Gabby's in there.
Yeah,
so she didn't even.
Right she's probably feeling
the have one word.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I was just going to say you're probably right. Then she's probably feeling the heat a little bit about Gabby if she's answering a question that she's not asked.
So I'd be interested too to see what Gary Close has to think about it. Now, was he an assistant with with Tom?
Yes.
Dr. Tom, or or
Yes.
Lute? Was he an assistant with Lute?
He was no.
Or am I thinking of somebody else?
He was with Dr. Tom,
Okay.
and he recruited Chris Street, and he was with Dr. Tom at Stanford
Yeah.
before Iowa. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to comment on was Addie O'Grady. You know, why she isn't playing. It's like when I watch her, she just doesn't hold her own down there underneath against, you know, a good defender. She gets shoved around. She's a little timid, I think. So, but I love watching Hannah, of course. You know, she's got a ballet going on underneath the basket. And what's her name? Sharon. She's big, and nobody pushes her around. So I love watching her play too. So anyway, that's all I wanted to comment on. Just throw my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate you calling in, and you're calling in all the way from out in Wyoming, correct?
Yes, and I'm snowed in, so I'm looking for things to do. So I thought I'm going to call in again.
Well, I appreciate you keep calling in, and we don't have snow on the ground yet, so I won't envy your weather. But hey, that's why we got Hawkeye hoops to get us through the wintertime. So
yeah, I agree with that. Well, Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I think that'd be a great question. I want to have Jan Jensen. I'm going to make an effort to reach out to Sports Information about having Jan on at some point. I know we're getting into the Big Ten season. We've been real busy with the bowl games and, of course, signing day. But I think getting Jan on here, because I would like to ask her specifically, you know, you don't want to put somebody like Coach Jensen in a precarious situation answering a question like, why isn't Addison O'Grady further along? But I think there are ways you can phrase that question, because I think a lot of people wonder that. You know, she started that game against DePaul and Kinnick. And ever since then, I mean, we're talking the last 14 games, she has, I agree with our caller, she seemed timid. You know, she'll have moments, but for the most part, I mean, right now, the two bigs that play, and I'm talking Sharon Goodman and Addison O'Grady, they don't really have much of a post-up game. No. Neither one of them do. Like, that's what's concerning to me most of all. And that's why I keep saying I think Hannah Stuelke's their best option, that they got to get out in transition. They don't have a big like Megan Gustafson or Monica Sonano that can post up back to the basket and create their own shot. I don't think either one of those players is real confident doing that right now. They haven't had to, because they know where to be at the right time, and Caitlin Clark knows where they're going to be at the right time and gets the ball to them more times than not. And this team moves the ball really efficiently, really well. They're very unselfish, and that's a big part of the reason why they're number 4 in the country.
Yeah. And just to add on to that too, I mean, if you look at NBA, college basketball, women's college basketball, backup bigs make their name in energy. Like, just as a general statement, backup bigs come into the game. I mean, if Sharon Goodman and Addison O'Grady are playing in that 5 to 10 minute range, they should be coming in and wrecking havoc for 5 or 10 minutes. That should be their mindset. They should be coming in and leaving the court completely gassed, because they should be looking to have every impact that they have in those 5 minutes. But I thought the plus minus is an interesting point, Cory. I think looking at individual box score plus minus is probably not very useful. I think a lot of coaches would probably tell you that too. I think it's more valuable as a long-term stat over the course of time. Like if you said Caitlin Clark was a -5 today or whatever, that doesn't mean Caitlin Clark's bad. That means there were certain things happen within the game that caused her to be -5. Maybe somebody else shot the ball really well on the other team or whatnot. But I think over the course of, I don't know how long that stat's being kept for. If it's
hold on, you can't just dismiss it when it doesn't fit your narrative and accept it when it does. If
Caitlin was -5 over the course of every single game, then yeah, I would say we got a problem there.
Yeah, I get it. If it's an outlier, and I haven't looked back at Gabby Marshall's numbers to verify what apparently Lisa Bluter said after the game. I can tell you, because I'm looking at the Minnesota box score, she was +32 tonight against Loyola the other day. She didn't play. Let's get to a game where she actually played. I feel like one of those people that doesn't know how to work technology, because I just exited out of what I was trying to look at. +32 today, and then against, let's go to Wisconsin, because, of course, that was a Big Ten game. In that game, let's see, Gabby Marshall was +21, which was good for third best on the team. And against, okay, I just did the same thing again. I give up. But I'll look at that stat, and I'm curious to get Coach Close's, because we should have Coach Close on after the men and the women on Tuesday. I'll be anxious to get his perspective on that stat. But you're probably right. I think Lisa probably feeling a little bit defensive because she's probably going to be asked that. If she's been asked the question before, right? Why, maybe not why Gabby Marshall's playing so much, but why isn't Taylor getting more minutes? Why? And those are questions that are hard to answer because the media and all of us, us talking heads, are not in practice every day. And that's why you have to be kind of cautiously critical as you look at these things. But nobody's debating the energy and effort she gives in the defensive end. There's no question about it.
Yeah. And to be clear, she was vindicated last year. I know we sound like we're coming down hard on Gabby Marshall sometimes. She was vindicated last year. It's just a question of, it is an odd thing. Like she gets hot at the right time last year. So we just expect her to get hot at the right time this year. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Shop RTI Threads, Cooper DeJean's apparel line at cd3lacesup.com, and all these other great Iowa athletes at rtithreads.com. Check out their full lineups and certainly make a purchase. Support the NIL cause. Support Iowa athletics. One of the many ways you can support the cause, the black and gold cause. rtithreads.com and cd3lacesup.com. Again, that's rtithreads.com and cd3lacesup.com. And speaking of RTI Threads, our RTI Threads player of the game this evening was Caitlin Clark. And, you got to try to not be biased as it relates to these player of the game awards. But she has been, I feel like over the last few games, she's been the player of the game almost probably 4 or 5 of the last 5 games. And, deservedly so. 35 points, 8 of 16 from 3. Made history tonight, became the all-time leading assist person in Iowa women's basketball history. Shout out to Sam Logic, who she also passed tonight. Along with 5 boards in the night for Caitlin Clark. She was really, really good. Let's go to our last caller of the day, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Let's try Ben again. Ben, are you with us? Here's what we're going to do, Kyle. We're going to just let Ben sit here. Ben, you're muted. But if you're trying to say words, we want to hear your words.
I do have something for you, Cory. Actually, this is a good time. Just give me 30 seconds, and we'll let Ben do his thing. All right?
Sure. All right. Before we get to what Kyle wants to talk about here, let's give a quick shout out to Iowa Smokehouse. And I talked about them earlier. Tasting is believing with their beef jerky, their meat sticks, their salsas. Probably my favorite is their salsas. It goes great with whatever chips you have on game day or whatever day you're celebrating. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and make a purchase from an Albia, Iowa company. Yes, Iowa Smokehouse down in Albia. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order. Tasting is believing with Iowa Smokehouse. All right, Ben, are you with us? Ben, going once, going twice.
Well, we're doing
oh, look at that.
Shoutouts.
Kyle's got From the Hawkeye of the Storm merch. If anybody wants to purchase the From the Hawkeye of the Storm merch, you just check it out in the linkage below. How is the quality? Do you like the quality, Kyle?
Yes, I do. Very good quality.
So we've got CD3 Laces Up gear. We've got the From the Hawkeye of the Storm gear. And I'm guessing Ben is – the reason Ben's not talking with us is because he's making a purchase either with Aaron Graves' line or Zach Lutmer's line, one of those. So we'll let it slide this time. The Iowa Hawkeye women defeating Minnesota 94-71 behind a historical performance. 8 threes from Caitlin Clark. She became the all-time leader in the Big Ten in assists, 35 points, 10 assists on the night to go along with 5 rebounds. Kate Martin had 13 points along with 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Hannah Stolke, 19 points, 8 rebounds on 9 of 10 shooting for Hannah. Sydney Falter added 8 points and 6 rebounds. Kylie Feuerbach had 5 points and 4 rebounds. Sharon Goodman added 4 rebounds as well. Addison O'Grady had 4 points. Taylor McKay with 5 points. Molly Davis with 2. Gabby Marshall finished scoreless, did have 1 rebound and 4 assists. And Kenise Johnson-Etienne played a little bit late, as did Jada Giamfi and AJ Ediger. So the Hawkeyes moved to 2-0 in the Big Ten. They'll take on who do they play on Tuesday?
Michigan State.
Michigan State. Man. And I still got a post-game show. I got a post-game show on Monday, a long post-Citrus Bowl post-game show, so that should be fun. I'm looking forward to it, myself and Coach Patterson. So we'll have tomorrow off as kind of hiatus before more post-game coverage on Sunday and then Tuesday. And then after Monday and Tuesday. After Monday, we're done with football until next September. Now, we may do something for the national championship game. I know Don loves to do that, and I'm honored to do it with him. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. Again, the Hawkeyes and the Volunteers of Tennessee taking each other on in the Citrus Bowl down in Orlando this coming Monday, 12 p.m. Central Time on ABC. So we'll have Coach John Patterson with us for that. And then post-game coverage, dual post-game coverage following the men and the women on Tuesday night with Coach Gary Close and myself. Kyle, it's been fun. Again, thank you for being a part of the show and for sporting the From the Hawkeye of the Storm gear. Make sure to check it out, folks. Our links to CD3 Laces Up stuff, as well as the From the Hawkeye of the Storm gear, all in our description. Thank you to our sponsors again, Iowa Smokehouse, Brad Van Meter at State Farm, and RTI Threads. We'll talk to you soon.